Welcome all. Today we're going to be replacing sealed cartridge bearings in this Trek Madone carbon frame. What the problem was, the movement was very tight, didn't move very good. You could actually hear sound that wasn't very fluent. So what happened with this one was we got a lot of probably sweat that was dripping on it. This bike's used in a stand in the house to get some mileage or some work done on a stationary trainer. That sweat eventually gets inside and oxidizes, builds up on the bearing and contaminates them. We got two top and bottom. We're going to be taking off handlebar and stem, dropping the forks, and then cleaning everything, re-greasing everything, installing the bearings, and putting everything back, tightening up our headset, and we'll get you on your way. To make this job easier, we're going to be removing the front wheel. So we got a quick release, and we got a quick release on the brakes. We're lifting that up, and if your tire is too fat to fit through your brakes, you can go ahead and let the air out or readjust your brake cable. But here we just have a typical skewer, drop that front wheel, and we're going to be dropping the forks as well. Right now we have the cable connected to our front brake still, so that is attaching, keeping everything together. So if we want to remove the forks and not have anything holding it back, we can go ahead and a few ways. You can probably remove the whole brake from your fork that way, or we can go ahead and loosen up our pinch bolt and get the cable free, and then that should do it right there. So I think that's probably the easiest way. I'm just going to use a three-way, loosen up that. We will have to go back and readjust. So you have your bolt here with your washer, don't lose any of that. Now our cable's loose, and we can go ahead and pull the housing up along with the cable. We do have an end cap here on the cable, so it's probably going to get stuck here. Yeah, so that's getting stuck there. So if you're real careful and they didn't smash your end cap too much, we can go ahead and remove this and then reapply it later again without disturbing any length of that cable. You can use some needle nose pliers or some wire cutters. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to gently try and make that cable tip round again. Again, I'm not going to try and spend too much time on it. So you're making it kind of oval again, or at least open. Then I'm going to use the blade here just to grab the edge of that tip without putting any pressure on that cable, because we want it to slide. There it goes, it just came right off. If this didn't slide right off, I'd go ahead and put it right on the cable tip, give it a nice smack, boom, and would shove it off that way. So now I can go ahead and pull my brake cable up, and now it's free. So now we're just going to remove the forks along with the brake. So next step, go back to my three-way, and this stem has two 4mm bolts. Just going to go ahead and loosen that. Remember, you can loosen the stem bolts first, or you can loosen your top cap first. It doesn't matter. One or the other is going to be holding it in place. If you feel you don't want to, you might drop the fork, go ahead and get a strap, a pedal strap or something. Go ahead and secure your fork to your frame. That way you have your hands free. But I'm going to unloosen one stem bolt here. Second stem bolt. Bolts don't have to come out all the way, just loose. Now we have that top cap that's holding everything in place. The top cap bolt is connected to our fork. Basically it's connected to our star nut if it's a metal steer tube, or a compression plug if it's a carbon steer tube. We'll find out what that is. So now I'm ready for the fork to come off, so I'm going to keep my hand on the fork, that way it doesn't fall. And I'm going to loosen my last bolt here. This is the top cap bolt that's coming out all the way. So we got top cap bolt with top cap. And then we got some spacers here. Take all your spacers off. And then we got stem. Slide that stem up. Now we can let this handlebar hang with the cable, but we want to make sure that it's not putting any pressure or kinks on the cable. If you feel it's going to be a problem, we'll probably have to attach this, have it attached close to the frame so it doesn't put pressure on that cable. And again, just let that gently hang for now. You might have to go back to this, but now I'm going to go ahead and loosen up drop my fork. We still have a top cap here. I got one more spacer with the top cap built-in riser. This is an FSA. So if we want to get that stuff off, I drop my fork down a little bit. Now I'm going to lift the fork up, which now allowed me to grab my spacer and this. It's a high-rise or spacer dust cap. So inside here we have our compression ring with a split in it. So we don't want to lose any of that. It's basically two pieces, but it's all coming out as one. And now we can drop our fork. And with our fork, we have the old style ball bearings, loose ball bearings that are fit in a cage, but a lot of the ball bearings have fallen out because this thing is rusted. And now we're free. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to secure this. I'm probably going to tie it right about here so we're not putting any added stress onto the cables. So this fork is aluminum. It is metal. One, if you smack it with a tool, it's going to make that metal sound. Two, it's silver. Most likely it is aluminum. They do spray them black, so they could come in black as well. So they did integrate aluminum with carbon. So this race right here, this is actually part of the frame. It's carbon, it's molded in there. There's no metal pieces. There's no cup or race to pound out or press in. So if this goes bad, it's definitely going to affect the whole frame. Not sure what the remedy would be. I don't know if it could be the frame is no longer worth anything, or if you can spend time and have someone cut it and replace it. I don't know what type of options are out there. Here we're looking at the bottom of the head tube. So it's definitely a little wider, probably 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches. Here there might be a piece of the existing bearing came apart, so it is stuck inside here. So I'm going to gently use my pick and see if it wants to come out. Definitely metal. This is where, if you're unsure, who knows if the manufacturer put a metal insert inside here and then they glued it in and it's supposed to be there, or is this part of the old existing bearing that just fell apart because it just got old. But in this case, most likely what I've run into is if we have a carbon race that's integrated into the frame, on top it's going to be the same on the bottom. So it is metal, and one, I can tell it sounds like metal, and two, it's turned brown or a rusty color. So most likely it is metal. Carbon won't rust like that. So I'm going to pry on this very gently, a little bit here on the sides, back and forth, all the way around, gently until I can get this thing out. Now if it's really jammed in there because it's oxidized, most likely you'll have to hit it with some WD or something that's going to break up that rust, or something to lubricate inside there. Maybe let it sit for a day, or hopefully not very long, and then we'll slowly get this out. I'm using my pick, so it's in there pretty tough. I don't want to destroy my pick head here, so I'm going to try something a little stiffer. I got a small, fine flathead screwdriver that has a blunt edge. So I am putting a little pressure here. Careful not to put too much. I am touching metal here. You don't want to be touching carbon. If you put too much pressure on carbon, we could crack it. So I'm just doing real gently. So a little bit of noise, it did come out, yeah. So I got a little bit of metal edge there, so a little bit of pressure there. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. Now you can't do this too much. So I'm catching it here, pushing up on my flathead screwdriver, which will unwedge this one, but it's also going to push this end back in. So I'm going to try and not put pressure on this end with the screwdriver. I'm going to try and float, make contact here, trying to keep light or no pressure over here as I push. Yeah, so all it's doing is pushing this guy out, pushing this one in. So you're gonna have to play with it. You'll eventually get it. But the good thing is it is loose. It wants to come out just like that. So the other alternative is to come in from the other side and maybe gently pound it from the inside on the edges. I'm gonna tilt this down. Great thing about having a repair stand, you can put it in a lot of good positions. So this is a pretty tall head tube right here. So I'm gonna have to use a really long screwdriver. So I wanna come down here and I'm gonna catch the inside edge, which is probably sitting right about there. And I'm just gonna do some gentle taps on the inside, tap here, go directly on the other side, tap, tap. So we're gonna try and hit 4 sides, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Gently tap all the way around so it eventually will come out. So we don't want to destroy anything, accidentally scratch or gouge the carbon. So you don't need a big hammer for this. So I'm going to use one of my rubber mallets that are pretty lightweight here. So I'm going to see if this screwdriver is long enough. Yeah, screwdriver's a little short, but let's see what I can get here. Yep, I'm gonna go a little bit longer. All right, so the screwdriver is a little bit longer. And we're coming on the inside. Go equal sides, break it up into 4s. And there we go. So here's that bottom ring, inner ring that I just knocked out. So this is the bottom race for the rest of these bearings here. So we got an inner ring. This guy sits right inside there, and then this is supposed to fit in as one unit, but it broke apart.